Hi, this is Steve Gillmor, and this is the Gillmor Gang. Unfortunately, I've been trying to read this Scoble article, and it makes too much sense, so I'm going to have to just have him summarize it instead. And I want to thank John Taschek for at-messaging me to that effect, that this was an interesting article.
Thanks.
By the way, the correct approved Gillmor Gang strategy from here on out is that you should include at least 2 at mentions in every post that you make. And try not to repeat yourself too much, because it will build up a taxonomy of who is authoritative. And we know that anything that does that, Scoble will come in and attack vigorously until it is diluted into just being Robert and everybody else.
Actually, if you really wanted to SEO Twitter to death, you have to include a couple of hashtags in your tweet as well.
Okay, well that's fine. Whatever you want to say. I think hashtags are well, Chris Messina was on last week, so I can say this week that I think that they're bogus. But until we have them supported uniformly on all platforms, you know. Okay, so that's Robert Scoble. We heard from him. Hi. I think we saw Kevin Marks briefly. Hi, Kevin.
Hi there.
We haven't heard
in from the Internet Archive today because I'm at the Books in Browsers event. Yeah.
This is where they're saving everything that we do, right?
That's right. Backing everything up.
Is that the Wayback Machine?
It's the Wayback Machine. It's the book, what do they call it? Open Library, which is scanning books and collecting library cards for books. And they'll let you archive any media you have. So you can upload old Gillmor Gangs if you want, and they'll keep them for you forever.
Oh, well, that's where some of the Gillmor Gangs, that's the only way you can see them. Thank you, unmentioned person. Let's see. The ever silent but incredibly verbose this week on his blog, Danny Sullivan. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
I couldn't finish your Google TV massacre, but hopefully you can summarize for us. No, I think it looks like you have problems with it, as I do, and so does the Wall Street Journal. So I think we can dig into that in a second. And then, of course, the ever-present cloud blog genius and consummate indirection master, John Taschek.
I'm looking over here. Watch me. Look over here. Hello.
Don't watch what I'm doing. Watch what I am pretending to do. Okay. So John and I are just back from the Gartner Symposium in where was that? Orlando. That's right. City of the Mickeys. And it was pretty spectacular. Some of which was not a good thing. Mark Benioff, just to get the disclosure out of the way, Mark Benioff is a genius, and he was. And
disclosure.
I'm telling you, you can say what you want. I think it's available on the web. His keynote interview was a It was a classic of humor and serious. Up and coming. I mean, it was just really extraordinary, and you can go see that I'm right for yourselves. But Steve Ballmer's interview. Now, there's another story, and Steve Ballmer is usually completely in command of these kinds of events. He's been doing them regularly forever, and the cast of other characters has changed imperceptibly over the years, but the fact that they finally figured out that Salesforce and Mark were a force to be reckoned with, pardon the expression, was a good thing for Gartner. And I think that they're really starting to pay attention to the cloud in a fundamentally important way. And I think that they're pushing the rest of the analyst space to move from if, past when, and into how in terms of deploying cloud. So I wanted to start with John, and can you give us your impressions, and this is a trick question, by the way, of the Ballmer conversation?
The Ballmer conversation. Well, in many ways, it was exactly the same conversation he had in 2006 when he was a symposium keynote speaker, where Ballmer was talking about the latest version of Windows, which at the time was Vista, and struggling a little bit on the mobile side. In this case, he was more defensive because the analyst sensed some surprise, I guess, on his part with Ozzy leaving, with Ray Ozzy leaving, and the launch of the Windows Mobile 7, which didn't get the pickup that he wanted. So Ballmer, typically, as you said, comfortable and really in command of these. What they do is they sit in comfortable chairs, and they have two interviewers, and the two interviewers ask the questions. And the same thing happened with Mark Benioff and John Chambers, and they had Michael Lewis, the author of Moneyball, do it the night before. But in this case, he struggled with his answers, and he started kind of digging at the analysts rather than kind of laughing it all off. So it came across as someone who was not in control of the future, I think. And
Can you just to interrupt? Can you move your mic up a little bit so that you're not blowing on it as much? Thanks. Go ahead. In control of the future, not in control of the future.
The future, he knows clearly what's going on with the future, but his company, it's really difficult to get the company going into that space where it is very much cloud, very much mobile. And they're trying to use the tools they have. So, of course, to everything to them, it's as if they, the adage, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you have a screwdriver, everything looks like a screw. In this case, I think Microsoft's screwed. I mean, what can you do? So that's my summary.
No, that's good. Were you there?
I watched the video.
Okay.
Yeah, but
that's why it was a trick question. Yeah, I was there, but I was watching a big screen of a video. John, move your mic up just a little bit more. This is what you need is a pop screen. You need to be looking like Scoble looks when he normally is in front of his magic mushroom microphone.
Okay. I've had a lot of conversations about magic mushrooms lately. What is it with them? Oh, yeah, okay.
Robert, what's your take on the Microsoft conundrum, since that's what you posted on that I'm trying to skim frantically?
Well, I think they're, Ballmer said the next version is one of their riskiest product bets ever. And the reason it's risky is everybody is moving away from Windows. The Starbucks CIO who just turned on this network, but he gets to watch 31 million people come into his stores and what they use every month. And he's saying that Windows growth or laptop growth is flat. In fact, he said it's slightly declining usage in the stores. And he said mobile is going crazy straight up. It's growing every month. Mm-hmm. And so, and we can see that, right? You walk into a Starbucks store and you see people staring in line on their mobile phones all day long. That's a huge shift in our behavior over the last 5 years, right? And it's just going to continue. So you take that the next version of Windows won't come out for 2 more years. That's what Microsoft does. They release a version every 3 years, basically. So you take that trend 2 more years out, and what is Microsoft going to do to make us interested in laptops and desktop computers again, especially after Steve Jobs is adding things like FaceTime to Macintoshes and making them really cool, sexy, thin? What is Microsoft going to do to capture our dreams, capture our aspirations for the future? And that's a tough challenge.
Danny, you're a Microsoft fanatic.
I don't know fanatic, but I use Windows 7 on my MacBook, I might add.
Really? And that's just to sort of keep up with the past, basically?
What's that?
Is that just sort of to dial back to the past? It's sort of your Back to the Future machine?
So it's more pragmatic. I run 3 external monitors, and the Mac OS system is pretty sucky if you want to use multiple monitors like that. Windows 7 is far better. There's add-ons you can get, so I can pop a window to any screen that I want. But I like the Mac because it has a great inbuilt display, which I use as my 4th monitor. The anti-glare is wonderful. The resolution is wonderful. It's a really nice, ergonomically designed machine. And if I really get sick of Windows, then I'll just stop using Boot Camp and head back over to the Mac. Mm-hmm. So, but most people still use Windows.
Yep.
So I guess I'm surprised that Ballmer is that concerned about it. I watched
Well,
Steve Jobs.
he's concerned because of the growth and
Oh,
because
sure.
what are they going to add to Windows that's going to get people to get off of Windows 7? When, like you said, Windows 7 is such a great OS. It finally is an OS that
So
works.
I
And
guess
it's
I don't
beautiful.
know that. I guess I wonder if people are really thinking, "Oh, I need to buy this computer because it has Windows 7 or Windows 8." I think people go in and I want to buy a computer that's in a good price range that'll do the basic things that I need. And if you don't have a lot of money, buying a Macintosh computer, even with all the special, wonderful things, is still a very expensive proposition. I had a Dell computer before it crashed and moved me back to the Mac. It was half the price of my Mac. I spent the money on the Mac because it's my work tool, and it was well worth the money to do it. But it actually is more limited in terms of what the Dell was offering. The Dell had the built-in card reader where I could actually slide the cards completely within it. Had more USB drives, had almost as much resolution, had more switches, and oh god, it had some other things like I didn't have to go buy a special adapter to hook into my TV if I wanted to. It even had
Yeah.
the ability for me to use an old-fashioned
Yeah.
telephone. I could use my
Well, let's
iPhone
talk about
headset.
TV because you wrote
Yeah.
a great piece about Google TV here at the top of Tech Meme right now.
This is what it sounds like on Google TV.
Google
but-
probably more than half the TV sold in the next 18 months. And that's why Ballmer's freaked out. He's being attacked by all sorts of different things on every front over the next 2 years. So 2 years
sure.
from now, what is Windows going to have left to capture our aspirations?
Again, I don't know that it's. I guess I don't know that it's that Windows has to have all these things to have to our aspirations. I mean, I watched the Steve Jobs thing. Having better video conferencing built in, that would be great. And there's an audience for that. Is that the primary reason you would run out and buy a new Mac? If you were just a typical person, I don't know.
No, that's not to run out and buy a new Mac. That's in order to be able to hook your old Mac into the next generation of mobile devices.
Sure. But then you may go. What I did find interesting was if I have an existing Mac, and I do, and I wanted to upgrade it to the latest version. I've got my old Mac that I want to bring up into whatever the latest Mac OS is, and to upgrade that software was like $32. For me to go and upgrade an old Windows machine is going to be, I think 90, if not more. So it's kind of a no-brainer to do it. So on one hand, the new OS may offer a lot of reasons why people want to go ahead and say, right, I want to bring my existing Macs up. But
But here's
I guess,
something.
I guess, Robert, it's not that I think that we have to have these new aspirations to do it. It's that the way we're doing the computing is changing. And I think you said it very well when you're like, people are on their mobile phones. That would freak you out. People who are buying iPads and saying, that's enough. I don't really need a computer. That's the kind of thing that ought to freak you out, and I think would freak him out. I think people who are still buying laptops to do their regular kind of work stuff, Windows 7, Windows 8, Mac OS, they might as well all be the same, from my personal view.
Okay, Kevin, jump in here.
On the new Mac OS stuff, or
No, on the
on
old
Windows.
Mac OS stuff.
I haven't been a Windows user since I worked at Apple. That was the last time I was running Windows in anger because I was working on QuickTime there. So I'm not in a great position to comment on the stuff there. I am surprised. I was surprised to see Ray Ozzie go because if they are going to focus on the cloud and Ray's been building Azure for them, that seems like a very odd sort of direction to make.
Yeah, I haven't posted this yet, but my basic attitude about Ray is that he fired Microsoft, not the other way around, and that was really confirmed in Ballmer's keynote interview because Mark Benioff was very, very gracious about Ray's departure. He made a good joke about it, which is that it's fast that Ray left the company faster than any Windows upgrade will ever be.
Steve, somebody's breathing right into the
Yeah, I think it's
microphone.
John actually.
Well, I moved.
It's just
Oh, it's gone. I'll move it back when I talk.
okay. Thanks. Go ahead, Robert.
No. I just was hearing breathing and not hearing Kevin.
So I think Ray basically did what he came there to do. I don't agree with the scenarios that that he was in a fight that he lost with Steve Sinofsky and the rest of the Windows and Office group. I think he knew that from the beginning. In fact, that's what he was hired to do, was to come in and try and resolve enough of the issues to be able to get them into a situation where they now are, which is, instead of being completely clueless about the cloud, that they have some investments in the cloud that, I would put it another way, if they hadn't done Azure, where would they be right now? I don't think Ballmer would have showed up if they hadn't made those investments. Unfortunately, I think for Ballmer and for Microsoft, if Sinofsky has enough leverage, which I'm sorry to say I don't think he does have the leverage, but if there's a period of time, let's say, I hope you're listening, Microsoft, if you could please do this for about a year and a half, that would be great. If they have enough leverage to be able to roll back what Ray has done there, it will permanently keep them away from addressing social media, for example. You can see the difficulties that Google has in trying to address the social media wave, and I'd like your comments on that, Kevin. But Microsoft, where's the products? Where are they in the stuff that we do on a daily basis? I mean, they're coming to the market with Windows Phone, but is that a social media play? I don't think so. I think that's a device to go after Nokia and RIM and lose to Android.
I haven't seen the Windows 7 phone, so I would like to have try it out sometime.
But is that a social media device as far as Microsoft
it is
concerned?
in that the piece that they have done is they've adopted the activity streams model for that to bring stuff in. So one of the things I have seen from the Microsoft guys in the last couple of years is they have been very ready to engage with websites on this stuff and be part of the plans for building that stuff out in a way that they never. That's been a very encouraging development. Like Rob Dolan. Connecting to this.
Yeah, you're breaking up here.
To WordPress. It's good. Oh.
Yeah, you're sucking all the Internet Archive's ability to save us. We'll come back to you in a second. Danny, do you agree that
Precious Jew?
Do you agree that or are you frozen as well?
Sorry, I heard you say, "Do you agree?" and then you went away.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I agree. No.
Do you agree that that Windows that Microsoft has some sort of social play, or do you think that they're woefully behind?
They seem to be really woefully behind to me. I've struggled to think what exactly their social play is supposed to be. And I'm struggling again as I try to think of it off the top of my head. If you ask me other companies, Twitter social play is evident, Facebook social play is evident, Google, that we don't know, right? For Microsoft, it's similar. The biggest, but at least with Google, you can point at some things where they could build it out more. They've got the Google accounts, they've got Google profiles, they've got Google Maps where they have communities that are in there, and of course that they have Buzz. So they have all these different seeds that they could try to play with more if they wanted to. At Microsoft, the best thing I can think of as their social play would be their inboxes, and it begins to feel kind of tired, that whole the inbox is the new social, because we heard that that's what Yahoo was going to do. We heard that's what Google was going to do, and nobody really seems to have done anything with it. So,
well, they have Xbox as well. You mustn't forget that piece. They have Xbox as well.
Yeah, Xbox.
Oh, yes, that's an excellent example, actually. And in fact, when I looked at the reviews of the Windows Phone, I thought the Xbox integration.
Do it again, John.
I'm intrigued by that, right? Maybe that's a play to go. And I play Xbox, and my kids play Xbox. Although I don't really have much of a social network on it, but I know people do, especially tied into particular games.
Well, they've been very successful.
But that's a very specialized social place. I don't know if that translates into And now we're the next Facebook.
Yeah, what do you think, Robert?
I I don't see how Microsoft gets back in this world. Other than
Are you
by
serious? I
Facebook.
mean, you know,
Yeah.
By Facebook, that would get them.
Well, I see it by them integrating the open specs and working with everyone. That's what I'm seeing them doing.
Come on.
Oh yeah,
Kevin.
but Google will do that.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no,
they got to
I'm
get in
serious.
line
They're
behind
doing it. Google
Google
doing
and
it too.
and Symbian and everybody on the
yeah,
planet.
but Google
there
has the bleeding
early.
edge user. Who uses Microsoft stuff? It's people who've been stuck on Microsoft for years. It's not the new user. It's not my son. You're not going to get
Your
him.
son doesn't use Xbox.
He does, but not in a social way like that to talk to his friends. He plays
Just to
games
kill
against
them.
people he doesn't even know. That's what he uses
He
Xbox for.
doesn't play games with his friends. My sons play games with their friends on Xbox.
Yeah,
and they say, okay,
well-
let's go there and do this, And yeah, they use Facebook too, but it's definitely part of their world.
Yeah.
Microsoft uses, Microsoft
100%
users
Microsoft.
get to use social. It's kind of like a conjugal visit. They're allowed to do it inside, but they're not allowed to go outside.
Yeah. Back to the Xbox. Xbox is interesting, but my son says most of his friends have iPod touches, or a few have iPhones, or a few others have Androids or other phones. Nobody has a Windows mobile phone. So how are you going to get on Xbox with one of those devices and talk to your friends and play some games? So the Xbox social network doesn't scale to other domains. Doesn't take you anywhere else. And Microsoft's not willing to run away from the Windows brand and embrace Xbox on a mobile device. If they had, the one thing that people when I talk about Windows Mobile Phone, the Windows Phone 7, they say the Xbox integration is pretty interesting. But is that enough to get people to buy a Windows Phone 7? I don't know.
No, if they're smart, they do an Xbox client for Android and
Now, what does that mean if
iPhone
they're
as well.
smart? I mean, these people, they're making more money than God. I mean, they
And
were
that's
smart
the problem,
sometime.
right? I had dinner with Nina Zagat, which, Zagat makes all these travel guides. It's the world's #1 brand around travel guides. But Yelp is worth 5 times more than Zagat. Why? Because they're disrupting the Zagat model, and the Zagat app is $10. They can't give up the business that they're getting from doing it for decades. They don't know how to do that. And Microsoft's in the same boat. They make so much money with Microsoft Windows and Office and Xbox and a few other enterprise tools, the SQL Server and Exchange Server and that kind of thing. They're not willing to disrupt any of those businesses yet. And that's really the trouble for Microsoft.
Well,
How are they going to disrupt this stuff?
I think it goes deeper, and I want to get to Danny's article on Google TV. Not only are they having a hard time, maintaining their margins or their user base or whatever, but they've got Google coming in and doing a Microsoft on, first, and sort of fast failing. And I think that's what Google TV is. It's a fast failure that doesn't cost Google a lot of money to fail at, and it'll have a salutary effect overall. But Microsoft can't even come in and do that because Google's already done it. I mean, you go to Best Buy, and there are 3 of those things out there already. I mean, where's the Media Center, and who cares? I mean, nobody cared about Media Center when it was at Comdex for the last, or CES for the last 5 years, and they don't care about it now. And it's been deprecated by another strategy, which still isn't going to overturn the media conglomerates. So, Danny, what do you think?
Media Center's alive and well on my Windows 7 machine, and I launched it 2
I know
days
Robert's
ago.
got it. He's had it for the last 5 years too. So
Yeah.
And it was not a pleasant thing. In fact, I remember it when it first came out in 2005, and I thought, this is amazing. Look, I've got all my listings, and I would go into my kitchen where we had it. I would search for the shows that I wanted to record. Then I would go back to my Sky digital box in the UK, and then I would locate the shows and record them that way. I looked at it, and you're looking at Google TV, and I was just sort of surprised that they haven't taken that technology and done more with it. Plus, it wasn't very complete. I did a search for 30 Rock, and it wasn't finding episodes that both Google TV and that that
Boxy.
Clicker was finding.
Clicker, yeah.
But what I like and what I actually intrigued to go back and play with it more is what feels to me that seems to be missing is, and again, this is sort of my personal view, but I've got all this video content. I've got all these photos, my own stuff that it's not on the cloud. I don't really want it on the cloud, but I sure as hell want to have it so I can watch it on my own TV without having to take a computer and hook it up. And, none of the things that I've been looking at recently seem to do that. In fact, Apple TV seems to have pulled away from doing that. You don't even have storage on the device. So, I would love if Microsoft could roll out its own, Windows TV box that let me get my TV content, that also let me either have storage or hook up to an external USB drive to get my storage and see my stuff there, that could understand all these different formats that I have, so I don't have to think, oh, no, I can't watch that video because I recorded in QuickTime, or that video is in an AVI file, and this video is in whatever format. I just want the miracle device that does it all, and I think there's still opportunity there for that sort of thing.
It seems, Danny, though, that there's two kinds of users for TV. There's the normal, let's call it the normal person user. My dad, he has a set-top box tuned to a cable, right? And he's not going to play around with these geeky tools. They're too, why he doesn't even know why you need to use Google to search for TV. He has his set-top box. He knows where ABC is. He knows where ESPN is. He knows where CNN is. He knows where C-SPAN is, and that's good enough for him. And he can record shows. And he doesn't feel that he needs to do something geeky. Then there's users like you and me, and we want to watch Xbox or YouTube. We want to watch Netflix movies. We want to, go and download BitTorrent stuff, and we want to do all this weird stuff all over the internet, because we're out there. We know that there's entire networks that are just on the internet now, right?
Sure, but I'm not talking weird to think, my wife shot off 600 photos in the past week because we went on some trip and we want to watch it on TV, and I want to have all the family photos in one place and watch it on my TV and not have to take her MacBook and hook it up to the TV, or put it onto an SD card, or put it onto a USB card and shove it into the side on a per type of basis. I want a home media center that, independent of even just getting the TV, I just want one thing that I can dump everything in. And my goodness, it's like 2 terabyte external hard drives are like $70. I can't even. For the first time, it's been interesting. I wanted to do like my own, like, I suppose, Sullivan law, which was I would always have more data than I could actually afford to store, and I was having to zip everything up. And now I'm going the opposite, where it's like I can't. I've got more storage than I know what to do with it, and it's liberating. I don't have to throw the stuff away. I don't have to
send me a couple of those drives. I mean, if you
I'll pull them off of my desk here, go down to Fry's. It's like you got plenty sitting there, and I have a lot of data, I think, too. So,
but the Apple model is to just go streaming all the way. It's
Sure.
going to take them some time to get the networks to be able to play ball, but they're not playing ball with Google TV either. So I don't think this is a technology problem. I think this is a political problem.
Well, on the getting the television stuff, that's a whole nother thing. If you're not talking about your own media that you've recorded, getting the online stuff, I think it's another case of where the networks seem like they haven't kept up with how quickly things have changed. The music industry struggled with, wow, everybody's making MP3 files and now they're swapping them or they're getting them or whatever. And now the television networks have themselves deliberately been putting out this content online through their own websites for anybody to watch. And now it's like, well, kind of inevitable that someone was going to build a device to make it even easier for you to get to the content through the TV. And so this kind of weird belatedly, oh, well, no, that's only okay if you're on your laptop or if you hook a cable from your laptop to the TV. But if you build a device that does exactly what your laptop does, we don't like it. It's just strange.
John, what do you think?
And there,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, let me breathe again. Yeah, I think that I think the networks are in the same predicament that Microsoft is. They have to hold on to the assets that they've got, and they want to prevent anything else from taking those away. And in the traditionally, at least the last 50 years or so, the assets that they've had are the equivalent of circulation, the Nielsen ratings, the rating systems, and how they sell advertisements, and the ownership of those shows. And now along comes, well, Windows Media Center first, maybe, or there've been other things that have been out there too, but Google TV, Apple. And Apple seems to be playing better with the networks than other systems, but Google TV, they don't have those partnerships in place in order for them to get that content. There's very few users on them, as Danny had pointed out in his a couple of the last 2 posts that he did. So the networks feel empowered to kind of crush them before they get started, but they're actually missing the boat by doing that. They should be letting that content go free, and then figuring out the model a little bit iteratively afterwards, rather than trying to crush it at the beginning.
Right.
Otherwise, people just lose it.
Yeah, I think that's where your analogy between Microsoft and the networks is appropriate. It's like Microsoft has the power to crush their opportunity to save themselves, and they're doing a good job of it.
I agree. The networks are doing the same thing. I mean, the networks have. If you just look at the market share of TV shows, they've all gone. It's gone down. I mean, even the most popular TV show today has less share than it did a long time ago. Now, of course, there's many more channels. There's 500 channels versus 4 or 3 or 2, but still, each show has much less share, even the most popular show. And the way that they can get that share back is by releasing those shows into the world through any means possible, whether it's a mobile device, whether it's through Google TV, whether it's through any cloud-based service, or whether it's through many distribution rights agreements that they come up with. But they're not doing that. They are crushing their own future. It's going to be a case study, at every school in 3 or 4 years.
And Jobs is using a version of this argument when he talks about fragmentation on Android. It's the same thing. That Android, it's open, sure, but in terms of the variety and number of hardware manufacturers that they're aligned with, they can't control the landscape. The users are confused.
But every time Jobs talks about Android, every time Jobs talks about Android, it raises Android's profile. And when I was at the symposium,
what do you say?
And I walked, snarky me. I saw these very interesting devices that were Android-based tablets, but they weren't really tablets. They were like the front end to a printer, or front end to a copy machine, or Cisco showed one that's a front end to the phone. And when you walk away, you pull it away. It's a phone. It's an Android tablet. They're quirky things. It's just that that innovation that's happened just recently because of the iPad, and it's spreading out into all these different devices, gives rise to Android as even if it doesn't compete exactly well in an apples to apples comparison to the iPad,
Pardon the
it
expression.
competes well as a yeah, right. I didn't even know I did that. It competes very well as a platform. And
look, there's no doubt that it competes very well, but there's also no doubt that Apple, the iPad is the new Windows. That's what Robert's saying, and I completely agree with him. And Android will have a similar kind of market share, ultimately, in terms of revenue, that is enjoyed by the Mac today versus Windows.
I don't think Robert ever said that, but
No,
Robert,
I'd said that.
No, but I agree with it.
and Danny doesn't agree with it. So we had this interesting.
CIO was telling me was he is now having to deal with the fact that a large chunk of his users and a growing chunk every month are using iDevices in his stores. He told me he wanted to use Flash for his new Starbucks network, right? Because he could have built a more compelling, more engaged experience if everybody had Flash or Silverlight to take it into Microsoft's world. But he can't, because most of his customers coming into the store are using iDevices that don't use Flash. So he had to build it all in HTML5 and do the best job with HTML5 that he could. That's a huge. Imagine a Starbucks CIO saying that 10 years ago, that we're not going to support Microsoft technology because this Apple thing is coming along. You know?
We haven't got enough developer resources for Windows.
I completely agree. HTML5 is that new operating system. It's got everything that you need minus the DLL hell or the operating system failure parts of it, and it gives a lot of freedom to new device manufacturers to do whatever they want. And Android's going to win because of that.
There is no DLL hell in an iPhone or an iPad. That's one reason that
let's not stretch the analogy too far.
Well, when you delete an app, it doesn't have a registry.
The App Store is DLL hell. I mean, you can't get through it. You don't have a product.
It tells you to download new versions every day. Yeah, it sits there nagging at you.
iTunes is my new DLL hell. I can't stand that piece of junk. However, I deal with it because I have a lot of Apple devices now, and when they go into the cloud version and it's HTML5, then there's going to be some kind of connective tissue between it. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to work. I know it will, and I'm hopeful.
Well, getting back to what Danny was talking about, the Apple TV, for all of its horrible compromises, what do they call it? Where they can share, you can stream to any of the devices in the house. I forget what the name for it is, but
sharing, I think, but
no, it's some Jobsian cute phrase. But the point is that it is exactly what we want. We bring it in through the phone or through the tablet or whatever it is we bring it in through. I want to see it on the screen. Boom, over Wi-Fi, I see it.
Oh, I want that, but I don't want that where I have to leave a laptop on all the time, which is my impression on how the Apple TV works. Again, I haven't played with it, but from what I've read, I got to have a laptop on somewhere. And
you have something on somewhere, yeah.
I haven't turned my laptops off since 1943.
And what I want to have on is Apple TV itself. I don't want my laptop sitting there and it all having to depend on that.
You just want an
I
excuse
wouldn't
to
be
use all the
surprised if they
storage
start
you've
playing
got.
off your backups on the Time Machine. Actually, that would be an obvious thing to do next. The big hard drive that's always plugged into your network is the Time Machine. They say.
I mean, the Time Machine's awesome. With completely, total user error on my part. At some point, it backed up a hard drive which contained this video compression program, which is long since the company's gone out of business, and there's absolutely no way that you can get it to run anywhere. And I went to the website and it said, you're out of luck, basically. And then I went and one day, just out for the hell of it, I went on Time Machine and looked, and there was the original copy of the software and the two DLLs or whatever they call them, library stubs, and a UI, saving of the preferences file, and I loaded it onto, Snow Leopard, and unbelievably, it worked. Saved my life. So, once we get to the point where all these devices are connected and they take care of this issue of abstracting out where the data is to the point where you can just use it, that's going to be the winner. And I don't see how Microsoft gets back in that game. I don't think that they've got enough devices. They're not going to have ubiquitous devices across the spectrum. You think you would disagree, Kevin?
I think I think you're discounting the Xboxes. The Xboxes are a huge number of the computers plugged into televisions at the moment. And if you've got to unplug something to plug one of these new boxes from Apple or Google in, it's like, do I unplug the DVD player? Do I unplug one of the game systems? Or how many? Or do you have a Scoble TV that has six inputs? The point is that if you think about physical computers that are plugged into TVs, they're game systems at the moment. That's the bulk of them. Only weird people like us plug real computers into there.
My daughter does not use an Xbox. She uses a Wii or a Y or whatever it's called. And there's a proliferation of these devices. Just because Microsoft's done well with Xbox doesn't mean that it has a Windows-type lock on it. It's nowhere near that.
No, I'm not saying it's a Windows type lock, but I'm saying
between the iPhone and the iPad and the Android devices, that's the platform. And everybody else is playing catch-up to
incumbency
that.
there.
Sorry? Couldn't hear you. You're locking up again. Tell Brewster to, get some more servers.
Is the Xbox actually...
you.
Go ahead, John.
It sounds like that Jack in the Box commercial where the guy walks up to the, and tries to order the hamburger, and everybody understands what he's saying, but nobody else can. All right, a little bit esoteric there. The Xbox, it's somewhat, it's very popular, obviously, second or first in the gaming world, but is it successful to Microsoft? I thought they invested billions in it, but make only $1 billion on it. But
if they push that out, I think Kevin's point, or should be, that if they push that out across all of their other devices, like Windows, get rid of Windows and make it Xbox, instead, that they'll have huge scale.
Oh, I think that's good, except they'll lose the entire partner channel doing that, and because who's going to make it? Is Dell going to make it? Is HP going to make it, or is any of the partners that really make Microsoft successful going to do that? Are they going to have all sorts of different fragmented Xboxes out there? I don't know. I think
there's the fragmented word, and so you can apply that same question to Google. Who are their partners, and can they control them? Clearly, they can't. At least right now, they can't control the networks.
They have a revenue model based on that, though, that helps.
Yeah, but Google... Jobs made a big deal about that, but not controlling the networks hasn't hurt them. Not controlling the networks have allowed the networks to go out there and spend millions of dollars pushing Android phones. As far as I know, the only person pushing the iPhone is Apple. Right? Google, maybe Google's doing, co-marketing agreements and pumping in some money to Verizon that we're not seeing.
I don't know. I don't know what part of the Apple model is broken, so I don't understand your point. They passed the market cap of Microsoft, and
I didn't say that they were broken. I just said that if you talk to Google, Google's like, we're all open and it's all wonderful, and that's why Apple's going to fail, and they exaggerate their openness,
right.
And Apple is not necessarily going to fail because they're closed. And when you hear Jobs talk, he's like, no, we think closed is great and everything's wonderful, and they're all fragmented and they're screwed up, and he exaggerates it as well. So I'm not saying
but
Apple's
if you in
or
the battle
Google's
of
screwed.
exaggerations,
I'm just saying that when I'm talking about when Jobs is saying, they're all fragmented and you have these problems. Yes, you get some problems. You also get some strengths, and some of those strengths have been doing very well for Google.
And you got to think about. Okay, there's actually two halves to Android, making all these weird devices from China and photocopiers and things like that. And then there's the piece at the top that Google has control over, which they use to license to the carriers to get the with Google part. And that piece is what makes them be able to do this sort of back and forth compliance stuff.
All right. Well, I'm sorry that you're having
the carriers. So they have strategy going on there.
All right. Well, I think I heard what you were saying, but only in part. I keep coming back to the irony of this, at least from my perspective, which is that we're talking about whether or not Google is going to succeed. We're talking about whether or not Apple is going to succeed or continue to succeed, et cetera, et cetera. We're not talking about Microsoft. It's like they've got the worst of all possible worlds here.
No.
Oh, you disagree?
If you want to go the worst of the worst, let's talk about Nokia and RIM.
No, but I'm not, because they're not. Yeah, let's talk about.
They're the worst ones who are still trying to play the game that Apple's playing.
Let's talk about all the baseball teams that didn't even make the playoffs. So this sounds like a good idea. What? Who are the people we're talking about? Who are the people that were interested in the chat room? Who should we be talking about? I can't even see it because my device is not like my iPad, which always works. The iPad is going to dominate. When at the Gartner conference in the main hall, there was a huge overflow room full of people listening to Gartner opine on the mobile situation. And I looked to the left, 3 banks of chairs down, and to the right, 2 banks of chairs down. And I'd say 70% of the people were using iPads. Now, this is IT, this is CIOs, this is, it's been like every time that somebody says something about the iPad, it turns out to be completely wrong. It's not going to do well. It doesn't run Flash. It's, it's caught between a device. It's not a content creation machine, blah, 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 blah. And it's a hockey stick. And we have not seen it stop yet. Now, I agree.
Although it's a BlackBerry.
But I think it's interesting. I've seen a couple surveys when people are asked, what do you do with it? Where they've actually interviewed a bunch of people. And I use them. I'm not taking away that plenty of people are using it. And I see them more and more. And I use it as well, for select things.
It's not that people
sense.
are not using other things. It's that they are using. It is a 10-hour battery with a screen.
Sure.
You can't do that with anything else. I carried my MacBook Pro in my black, Salesforce bag around for 4 days. I never took it out until I went back to the house, at which point I used it to charge my devices and to create a Wi-Fi hub so that the wonderful world of Disney would be able to be superseded by letting my wife and my daughter use their iPod, iPad, and iPhone, respectively.
Well, there's no doubt it's a great device. I guess what I wonder is, are we going to see... Does that mean now the iPad is it, or is it the first mover in the tablet wave? And in a year from now, might we find that lots of people are carrying around tablets in the way that lots of people now are carrying around Android phones in addition to iPhone, right? When the iPhone came out, it wasn't the first smartphone by a long shot, but it was the first usable smartphone, I'd say, for ordinary people, where you didn't have to think about it.
It was the first usable web experience on a phone.
Right. So, so here you have this thing, and you'd think, wow, God, this is awesome, and, no one's ever going to challenge it or whatever. Android is a serious competitor to it now. There are people using Android devices just like they use the iPhone.
I don't disagree with you, but so is the Mac a serious competitor to Windows until Office was created. That the Office suite basically bundled all of the major competitors, WordPerfect, 123, blew them out of the water, and there was no competition at that point. It became where do you want what operating system are you going to use for all of the applications? The modern day equivalent of that is the App Store. The developers are flocking to the App Store.
They are, but I guess I don't know that. I've yet to see something really good that told me this is the killer app that you absolutely have to have, and you can only get this kind of app on Apple, and therefore you must have an iPhone or an iPad. What I see is people using a variety of apps.
What? Flipboard?
Okay, is that the killer app that everybody... I know. But I just wonder if
Flipboard is the killer app for Robert,
and if it's going to be the same thing. Lots of people have iPads. Lots of people have other tablets, and it's the device and the form
haven't installed
function.
apps.
Yeah, that's the surprising thing, Kevin, was a report came out today that 30%, or about a third of the people who have iPads, haven't loaded a single app on it. Why do you buy an iPad if you're not going to try even a couple of apps? Load Angry Birds on it and load
to browse
a few
the web
apps
and to do the stuff, to browse the web.
Because you've got the killer app, which is a web browser, and if the killer app is your web browser, then it doesn't matter what tablet you're using. Unless you actually want to go to a website that runs Flash, which I still need to do on occasions, and it is still annoying that the iPad can't do it. It's really annoying.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's less and less annoying to me. I tell you.
And Adobe capitulated yesterday with a HTML5 app,
Oh.
a player. Brilliant. Of course, it's not good for them, but it'll be good for Balmer when because their stock price will go in the toilet, and they'll be easier to buy. All right, we've got just a couple minutes because Danny has to leave, and I think Scoble has to leave, and
No, it's more accurate. My MacBook battery is dying.
okay. Well, so I'm going to start with Danny since he's going to be the one to leave first. Summarize the dilemma that Steve Ballmer faces. Is Steve Ballmer deluded, or is he appropriately distraught over the state of Microsoft?
I would say he's probably appropriately distraught that Microsoft is not seeming to lead the explosion of new devices that are out there. They are not out there with a tablet. They're not out there with a mobile phone. They still have an incredible leveraged base of people who are using computers that run Windows 7. That's going to diminish over time slowly. I don't think it's going to suddenly be a hockey stick going in the wrong direction, but that's not really the future. If we start getting these new really cool computers like the MacBook Air, which seems to be designed to be, it's a little bit more than your tablet, but it's still light or whatever. Where's Microsoft keeping up with that sort of thing? And I think that's his challenge.
Robert?
The hockey stick will come because we paid for Windows 7 already, and they're not making that much recurring revenue the way Google does when we visit google.com. And so what if we don't buy Windows 8? That really hurts Microsoft's future growth potential. And so for the stock market, that's probably why that Microsoft stock ain't going to go up very, very fast anytime soon. I don't know. I actually like the Windows Phone 7. I've played with it. At Zagat, they showed me their new app, and it's a beautiful app. It's actually more beautiful than on the Android or the iPhone. But it's interesting. Even with that beautiful app and the beautiful OS, the guy who made the app said, "Yeah, I'm using an iPhone. I'm going to keep innovating on the iPhone app version because he's building all three: the iPhone, the Android, and the Windows Phone 7." And that's one of the major places to find restaurants around the world. I still see it as an iWorld. Everybody I talk to, you talk to the lady who runs Sephora.com, 80% of the people who use a mobile device in their stores is using an iDevice. You talk to Starbucks, he said most of the people who come into a Starbucks is using an iDevice if they turn on a device. Talk to Open Table, same thing. eBay, same thing. And so the trick is, does that change in the next
It's a small
year?
iWorld, right? Okay. John?
The best customers are using iDevices, and until the best customers, the most profitable customers, don't use iDevices, the majority of innovation is going to be on the iDevices because developers like to where the money.
It's what Mark Benioff said at the Gartner Symposium. If we make our customers successful, then they will stick with us.
Yep.
Okay. John, you want to summarize?
Yeah, I think just go back to Ballmer. I think he's nervous, and I think he's going to keep on going with this innovation path until he realizes it's not going to work, and then they're going to start investing and becoming the blue chip dividend-paying company that they are. And that means they're going to acquire a bunch of enterprise companies or perhaps a services company and just become a different kind of company altogether. I think that's my prediction. If they can't get push the innovation out faster than they need to, and they'll just be a different kind of company. They won't be an innovation company. They won't be a technology company.
That's why he's right. He doesn't need to replace Ray, right?
That's right, and he also said that he can't find anybody better to replace himself.
Yeah, well, I think he's right about himself. I think that he should stay because I think he's good at what he does, but he's got a really bad hand that he's playing, and as far as Ray's concerned, I think everybody should be very, very concerned about the fact that he's out there in the wild now. Kevin, last chance.
I think that what I'm seeing here at the books in browsers thing is reinforcing the stuff that we've said, is that HTML5 is the new platform. HTML5 is the new Windows, if you like. That's the thing that you can be sure that everything's running now, and you can develop for it because you know it's on most of the machines. That is a big difference.
Well, I think that the iPad is and the iPhone, because it's a platform that developers can make money on, whereas right now I think Android is extremely valuable for the ecosystem, for keeping Apple honest and pushing the rest of the ecosystem, including the carriers, toward unbundling their services so that we can get it on demand where and when we want it, which is where the market is. And I guess other than that, when I see my daughter lobbying me for anything other than an Apple product, then I'll reconsider. But for now, I think they've won, and they're going to continue to. This is Steve Gillmor. This has been the Gillmor Gang. I want to thank Rackspace, and particularly Rob Legess, for getting the show back on the air. I want to thank NewTek and their fabulous TriCaster for turning this into a video show. And I want to thank John Taschek, Danny Sullivan, Robert Scoble, Kevin McKean. No, just kidding. That's an inside joke.
Oh.
And Kevin Marks, and our producer and director, Tina Chase. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.